Hey, everybody, welcome into the closing line for September 20th. It is Wednesday. It's hump day. We are almost there, ready to go for some football. But Major League Baseball is still out there. There's a lot of meat left on the bone. If you watched the show last night, Jeff and I were teeing up the New York Yankees to an easy victory. I took a contrarian play last night with the over in Toronto. That ended up a loser, a 5-2 final when we needed 9 runs. So we'll try to pick some things off the bone here, maybe get you some value last night, some interesting stuff again. Phillies continue to have the Dodgers number, which is always kind of interesting there. But then again, welcome in, folks. Closing line September 20th, presented by SportsbookReview.com. I'm your host, as usual, Donnie Rightside. Going to bring in here right now my partner in crime, helped me out for 2 straight days here on the closing line, the big man on campus, Jeff Nadeau. You can see his videos all over SportsbookReview.com. Also follow him at SBR Sports Picks as well. But more importantly, Jeff, hey, Saturday, another day, another dollar. You're going to have that show with Pete again. The closing line, 11 a.m. on Saturday that people can check out. Welcome into the show, buddy.
Thanks, Donnie. Yeah, I'm on location today. I feel like I'm back with SBR for the first time. I remember when I first started doing videos, I didn't have an office, didn't have anything. So I would come to my parents. I'm down here for dinner tonight. And I feel like it's the old me doing videos with Peter Loshak. I'm probably a little bit bigger as far as my body's concerned. I remember I was a skinny lad back in those days. But it's nice to be on with you, Donnie. Anywhere I go, I'm here with SBR.
Filled with knowledge, Jeff, I like to say now. That's, if you gained a little bit of weight. Not food, filled with knowledge over there. We did have some Major League Baseball, Jeff, finishing up earlier today, if we just want to go over and touch on a few of those. Currently right now, bottom of the 7th inning, Jeff, San Francisco and Colorado, Moore and Chatwood, 4-0. Lead here for San Francisco. Line closed at -33 as a favorite towards Colorado. Even seen some chats there online, Jeff, saying, I can't even believe it. Look at this. Colorado, only a cheap favorite here. Why don't they just take them and give them a whirl? Yeah, Matt Moore pitching a really good baseball game here. And something is wrong with the Colorado Rockies, which I don't know if we were waiting all season long for them to finally for the bottom to drop out, especially away from Coors. Jeff, do you have any thoughts on this ball game? Because I know a lot of people just say, hey, you know what? San Francisco's out of it. Colorado fighting tooth and nail to get in the playoffs. And here you go with a 4-0 lead here in the 7th inning.
Yeah, this is a weak outing by the Rockies. They've really tailed off over the last month or so or more. I remember, them in Arizona had a nice lead in the wild card, but that's now since went away. And now the Brewers are eyeing up with a ability to grab another game here, possibly if the Rockies do end up losing this game. But Matt Moore, San Francisco, they want to be, spoilers here. They're doing well so far. But, yeah, the Rockies have tailed off. They're not a team I'd look to back on the road, just not really ever have been.
No, yeah, I mean, it's just an interesting one. Again, this is what you get at the end of the baseball season, and it leaned on the Yankees yesterday because they had to win the baseball game. You would think Colorado would have to win, but again, it's baseball. You got to go out there and win. It's one of the—
Just because you need to win doesn't mean you're going to, Donnie.
Yep. Especially in baseball, because you still got to go against a pitcher he's not just going to go out there and say, I don't even feel like pitching. That's his livelihood on the line. His ERA's on the line. Yeah. He's going to get after it. Next up here on the docket, Jeff, 9:51, 9:52, and 9-2 final. Miami with Urania on the mound versus Montero and the Mets. Over-under closed at 9, so they easily went over that. Heavy favorite here. Opened up at 155. Pinnacle closed at 172, so a nice coasting victory, Jeff, for the Miami Marlins here.
Yeah, Urania's been pretty good this year for the most part. Been one of their more solid pitchers for the most part. Stanton with another home run. Yeah, the Mets are hard to back. But, 25 games down to Urania, 13-6 with a 3.76 ERA. Been real good at home. He's one of your arms down there that I think long-term really going to be a good fit for this group. Obviously, losing Fernandez on that tragic event, was tough for this team because they really lacked a great ace this year. They might have that down the road, a good second or third start in Urania. He was very good this year.
Yeah, I thought he was here, Jeff. And hey, how about the New York Yankees, Jeff? 966, 965, pummeling Minnesota, who again needs to win just as much as the Yankees to get in the playoffs. Now, I know the Yankees are going to get in, but obviously they're trying for their eyes on the prize, taking the AL East. Easy winner today. Severino on the mound, clearly the ace of that New York Yankees staff. 11-3 final. Over-under opened up at 8.5. I didn't actually check into that game, but it looks like Bartolo Colon got beat up pretty good here.
Yeah, and it was interesting because Minnesota jumped out to a 3-0 lead in this game, but then Aaron Judge had a home run, Gary Sanchez had a home run, a big double from Greg Bird. Yeah, look, this is about as close to a huge discrepancy as you're going to get in baseball, pitching-wise. Bartolo Colon's he's done. A lot of home runs today for the Yankees, a lot of big hits, big day for Aaron Judge. Yeah, it was nice to see them down 3-0. They've done that over the last couple nights. Last night they were down, came back to get a couple runs late and win that game. And today, the fourth and fifth scored 8 runs. Nice big win for the Yankees at the stadium today.
Now, it was a nice win there. And again, heading down the playoffs in the right direction. Last game on the card today. How about this, Jeff? Oakland Athletics, Detroit Tigers, a barn burner. You know, everybody was really interested in this one. 3-2 final. Oakland comes away with the victory. Closed as a small favorite here on the road. Over under, Jeff, opened up at 10, closed at 10.5, nowhere near the total. Again, you have two baseball teams not really looking to, close out the season, just trying to not get hurt. Maybe look at some young guys. They were bashing it around last night in Comerica Park, hitting a lot of home runs. Didn't translate over today, Jeff. 3-2 final here.
Yeah, Anibal Sanchez actually pitched pretty well, surprisingly. But, the big problem for Detroit is the bullpen. And Stump comes in, gives up 2 big runs and a home run. So, yeah, look, I mean, neither bullpen was good, but Mangden goes 7 innings, scoreless. Really nice effort from Dan Mangden. This is a game that is meaningless. No one's doing anything here, but, nice win for Oakland.
Yeah, no, certainly. That wraps up that early baseball card. Again, still waiting on the final for that San Francisco-Colorado game. It's never over till it's over, but it looks like Colorado just didn't come to play here, Jeff. And one other game went final, which I have no idea, but I did see a lot of people tweeting on Twitter, Jeff, and I'm sure you were kin to this one. And that would be a soccer match today with, was it Real Betis?
Real Betis, yeah.
There you go. Talk a little bit about that game. Hey, it's a closing line. Just finished up and
just knocked off Real Madrid. Beating Real Madrid at home and not even giving a goal up, amazing. I can't remember the last time they didn't score at home. For many that don't know, Real Madrid is probably the best team in the world as far as in every league. They have the amazing talent, but they've struggled a little bit lately. They're drawing way too much. They're just not playing up to their normal, Real Madrid standard, and that's a huge win for Betis today. I mean, on the level of, I believe Real Madrid was laying 3 goals in that game. I think paying back, I think it was like 23-1 on Betis. So a huge win for Real Madrid, and they've been money burners lately, man. I had them the other week. My play of the day in the Champions League, weren't able to cover. They're struggling right now. They need to turn it up because Barcelona is rolling in the La Liga. A huge win for Betis, and it was a late goal too. So I guess if you had Madrid, you were just looking at, hey, they're not going to cover. Fuck it. I hope they lose now. But hey, if you had Betis today, show yourself. We want to see your ticket.
Yeah, no, interesting. I always like to see those big upset winners because usually around Twitter this time when a big favorite wins, it's a lot of boom, cash, easy winner. Can't believe they gave out free money today. So kind of interesting. Didn't see too many tweets, you're right, saying, man, I called that one right on the head. Always fun.
No one had Betis today. Everyone bet on big boy Real Madrid. No one at home, if you're betting against Madrid, you're not making a lot of money too often. So, hey, if you had it, salud. Good for you.
Yeah, no, we'll get into the Major League Baseball card here. Also, again, Jeff, one of my favorite guests here because we're going to go over an NCAA 5-pack that was given to him by a lot of listeners there on some games that they want to talk about. So we'll go over that as well. Also, tomorrow, hey, we could talk about it ad nauseum with the Rams and the 49ers. We'll touch on that. Maybe if we have some time left over, we'll do a little bit more of a preview of Sunday's card. And maybe if Jeff wants to throw us a bonus game on Saturday just for some fun that maybe somebody else is not looking at. But we'll continue with the show here, Jeff. Why don't we get down a couple baseball games that we picked out? Always like to go over 5 games. Again, baseball, not the most exciting part of the season right now. Just waiting for the playoffs. Football's back in effect. I know it has everybody's attention. But again, there's a little bit of meat left on the bone, Jeff. Let's go 9:55, 9:56 in Philadelphia. How about those Phillies? Coming back here on the Dodgers, back-to-back nights down early, come back and winning over Yu Darvish and also Clayton Kershaw. Some pretty impressive stuff here. About 3,400 tickets have been tracked in this one, Jeff. A huge favorite. Alex Wood on the mound opens up at -230. Pinnacle pushed him to 250. Chris at 250. Sportsbook.com at 260. Bet online at 245. So you're going to get anywhere from 220 to 230, depending on where you're shopping, if you would like a dog on the Philadelphia Phillies. Going over this game, Jeff, 2 starts by both of these pitchers last time out. Very very good. Alex Wood at Washington, 6 innings, 3 hits, 0 earned runs. Jake Thompson turned it around, 5 1/3, 6 hits, 0 earned runs versus the Miami Marlins. Don't have too much on this game other than it's going to be interesting to see if the Phillies can actually pull off the sweep, which is why I picked this game. I wouldn't be leaning either way, taking the large dog or obviously laying the money with Alex Wood. But looking at the game itself, Jeff, I actually would lean towards the under 9 here. Even though it's a nice day in Philadelphia, I think runs might be a premium tonight. I don't know how locked in the Dodgers are, maybe a getaway game, but I can see Alex Wood coming out and frustrating the Phillies a little bit. Maybe one of those games, Jeff, that ends like 5-2, 5-3, somewhere in that range, just staying south of that 9 number.
That's where I would look, Donnie. I'm not going to be betting this game, but I would lean under as well. I think 9's a little bit too high. Last night, 7.5, okay, but 9 with Alex Wood, a little hard to get involved with. He's been so good this year, particularly on the road as well. 7-1 in 12 games at a 2.18 earned run average. The only concern I have, Thompson's pitched well lately, but his whip is high at home. I get the feeling he's struggling a little bit in that ballpark. Putting too many people on base. But if we can just get him to like 5-6 innings, I'm hoping that'll kind of lessen the blow of the Dodgers. I feel like they're going to bust out at some point, but they're struggling to hit right now. I would lean under as well.
Yeah, no, it should be, I don't even want to say a decent matchup, but an intriguing one, because it would be kind of funny if the Phillies actually swept the Dodgers here late in the season to end it. 963, 964, Jeff. Arizona and San Diego, 2 pitchers that, again, I don't think they're getting that much hype throughout the year. Obviously, San Diego, nobody can probably name more than 3 starters on that team overall, but Robbie Ray has been fantastic. 67% of the actual spread wagers coming in on Arizona, meaning taking the -1.5 here. If we look at Pinnacle, opened up at -151. Pinnacle sitting at -141 now. Chris at -144. Sportsbook.com at -144. If you take a look at the tail of both of these guys, can you say enough about what Robbie Ray did this year, Jeff? 25 starts, a 2.74 ERA. On the road, 13 starts, 1.33. His last 3 starts, Jeff, 3-0, 1.31. And Dinelson Lamet, I mean, no shake here, 3.59 at home. Last 3 starts, a 2 ERA. But an unbelievable season, an unheralded season, Jeff, from Robbie Ray in this instance. I don't think there's going to be too many runs scored in this ballgame. Both of these pitchers, to me, Jeff, seem to be locked in. So I'm going to lean on an under total in this game. Despite it actually being down to 7 here, I can easily see this game, Jeff, 4-1, 3-1 final here.
Yeah, it's a shame Robbie Ray pitches in the National League, or he'd probably be a Cy Young candidate. I mean, I think he is a candidate. He's not going to win, but, I mean, he's had an unbelievable year. 206 strikeouts. You look at on the road, 8-1, the 1.33 ERA and a .93 whip, just sick. They won 10 of his 13 starts on the road. This is a team, the Diamondbacks, that I don't like on the road, but I think at this price with this pitcher against Lamet's really hit or miss a lot of the time, and the Padres are just struggling right now. But you look at over the last 32 1/3 innings for Ray, 55 strikeouts, an ERA of 1.39. The problem, though, with the Diamondbacks are, I mean, they really don't have a ton to play for. I mean, they're easily up in the wild card. They're not going to be caught. This is kind of just a hit or miss game for them. And we see with their lineup night after night, you're not always getting the best players in there. And last night, Pollock came to play, but no one else really did. So I would hope tonight they do. With Ray on the mound, I don't ever think it's a bad thing back in the Diamondbacks. I would take the Snakes here.
Yeah, next up here, Jeff, interesting one, 969, 970. Boston and Baltimore, 1-0 final last night. Chris Sale's going to take the mound versus Wade Miley today. What would appear to be a mismatch of both of these lefties heading to the mound. No surprise, opened up about 2-1 here. Pinnacle now sitting at -230. Chris at -230. Sportsbook.com at -240. Just looking from the two teams here, it's obvious. Doesn't look like Baltimore's going to make the playoffs. Boston in a must-win situation because the Yankees won earlier today and continue to press the envelope there heading down the stretch in that last week and a half to see who's going to win the AL East. I don't have much on this ball game. Just on its outset here, I know a couple guys are out for Baltimore in their lineup, so not sending an A lineup out to the mound. I'll lean on Boston here. I mean, it seems with Chris Sale, it's an all or nothing, but his nothing is not that bad. 2, 3, maybe 4 runs here. I could see them getting the Miley. And based off the last outing Wade Miley had, absolutely torched. I don't think it gets any better. Again, Boston's not that major hitting lineup, but I'll lean on Chris Sale in this instance, maybe even take a -1.5 since they are the road team here. I can easily see Chris Sale, going his typical 7, 8 innings, 1 or 2 earned runs here, and Boston tacking on a couple runs, 5 or 6. So I would lean towards, if you were going to take a play on this game, I'm not going to take a money line at 230. I would lean on the run line here with the road team here and Chris Sale.
Yeah, I don't have much in this game. It's the concern right now is I definitely think Boston will win, but do I think they win by a margin? They should, but it just seems like when Chris Sale pitches over the last 5 to 7 starts, seems like they always win like 2-1, 1-0, 4-3. I'm not heavy on it, Donnie. I'm going to pass in this game. Wade Miley's been bad all year, but at some point, I feel like he can shut Boston down. They're not particularly good right now. They're not hitting. I feel like this is a low-scoring game, but at that ballpark with that lineup at times, I don't like to bet unders. But 11 of 17 have gone under this year between these two teams. I would lean slightly to that play.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking at Baltimore, you're used to a better, leading off Austin Hayes, Trey Mancini, Scope Jones. Then you have Wellington, Castillo, Trumbo, Davis, Hardy, and Flaherty in the lineup. So not a fantastic lineup to look at. Bogarts, Pedroia. What's that?
No Machado?
No Machado in the lineup tonight, and no Beckham leading off. So two key cogs right off the bat.
I would look under in that case.
Yeah. It's 8.5 though. The only thing I'd be worried about is, Miley sometimes gives you that good 5 to 6 innings, Jeff, but sometimes Miley just goes off the rails and you get pegged for 6 runs,
That's the concern with Miley. I mean, I hope he can give you 5 here. I mean, as long as I'm okay with Boston scoring, as long as Baltimore doesn't score. They could score 7 runs, but as long as Baltimore doesn't score any. But I would lean under, but it's not a game I'll be betting.
Next up, your 971, 972, Kansas City and Toronto. Junis and Anderson on the mound here. Jeff, line opened up at 9.5, down to 9. Also opened up as a small favorite for Toronto, -123, now down to -114 at Pinnacle, -117 at BetOnline. So it looks like that's moving in the opposite direction here from the original favorite setup. If we look at Junis on the road, Jeff, 7 road starts, not that good, 4.99 ERA. Anderson's been a train wreck at home, 6 home starts, 8.59 ERA. Been a little bit better lately, both of these pitchers, Jeff, through their last 3 starts, a 3.18 for Junis, and for Anderson, a 3.86. Don't have an unbelievable, obviously, feel for this game because both these teams are out of the playoffs. If you're going to take a look, again, I'm going to say that sooner or later somebody's going to hit in the series. I'll go contrarian again. If it's 9.5 dropping down to 9, most people are thinking that this game is going to be an under. I'll lean on that 9 and go over again here tonight in this game, Jeff.
Yeah, this is another one I don't have anything on. I'm not looking to bet Brett Anderson, for God's sakes. I'm not looking to bet Junis either. You said you like the under?
I'm going to go over here, contrarian again.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I would go over as well. I think both these pitchers can be hit. The concern is always with particularly Toronto, can they hit consistently? But yeah, I mean there are guys that can hit home runs in these two teams, Hosmer and Batista. There's plenty of options for runs here, but I don't have much in this game. They're two teams that don't care. They're not going anywhere. But you have two pitchers that I wouldn't really look to back. So yeah, I could see like a 6-4 game here, sure.
Yeah, not bad lineups. I mean, for two teams that are technically out of it, not playing for much, I mean, the Royals are still going to roll out Merrifield, Kane, Cabrera, Hosmer, Perez, Moustakas, Bonifacio, Escobar, and Gordon. So their normal lineup. Then look at Toronto. Carrera is going to lead off hitting 289. You got Donaldson, Smoke, Batista, Morales, Pilar, and Russell Martin, Goins, and Barney. So a normal lineup for both of these ball clubs. I just don't trust that these pitchers are going to be able to give you that 6 to 7 innings and shut it down. Stroman was really good last night, and that was one of the things that, was the reason why I actually took the over, trying to play contrarian where they might be able to touch him up over the first few innings. A little bit of a case of too little, too late on the 5-2, because I believe after 6 innings, Jeff, I don't even know if anybody had any runs on the board, but I can expect that tonight. Maybe the bullpens take the night off and you get some of those runs. Just looking for that 4-4 again, as we like to say. That'll guarantee us a push, and we'll see what happens down the back end. But yeah, not a real interesting matchup, but just caught my attention there with that low line, and then looking at a 9 here as well. Next up, Jeff, 979, 980, Chicago Cubs and the Tampa Bay Rays. We'll go Lester and Snell here, the battle of two lefties on the mound. The happiest pitcher in Major League Baseball, John Lester, opens up 131, Jeff. Catch this out now. Once down to -117 at Pinnacle, 115 at Chris, 119 at Sportsbook. 7 wins in a row for Chicago Cubs. And Lester going in reverse here. How about that, Jeff?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Donnie, I'm coming out of retirement to bet baseball tonight. I love the Cubs in this game. I'm going to be betting them. I did have some small plays last night on the Yankees and on the Phillies over, which came in. I mean, you look at the Rays. I mean, they just cannot hit left-handed hitting or left-handed pitching. They had 1 hit last night. They're hitting 199 over the last week. They're a fade against lefties. And I've mentioned all year, to me, the Cubs against lefties are a must bet. Chris Bryant's back in the lineup. This lineup's full go tonight. I don't like Blake Snell much at all. They're hitting like 270 against lefties this year. Over the last week or so, 8 runs a game, hitting 323. No one's, Cubs are right there still, Donnie. They're going to be in the playoffs, and they're going to be an interesting team to back. Against a lefty, I'm all over the Cubs. And against a lefty, I'm interested in fading Tampa Bay. For me, this is one play on the board that I'm definitely going to bet tonight.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, really interesting line there. If you're going to look at both of these teams, obviously Tampa Bay really not making a push for the playoffs. Cubs solidifying, going for another nice win streak there, heading down to the playoffs, got one of their aces on the mound. Should be interesting to see how it ends up, but that'll wrap up the Major League Baseball card. Again, it's the closing line, so you got games going off at 7 o'clock and early. We like to pick some of those out for us. Go ahead, Jeff.
By the way, Donnie, I mean, someone in the chat's mentioning false flags. I mean, false flags, we remember, are big and potent in July, but right now, I mean, you got to figure Tampa Bay is quit for the most part. And they can't hit lefties. I mean, it's not, this is something they can't do. And the Cubs have been a very good bet against left-handed hitting all year. I could see where you'd say it's a false flag. It just doesn't look right. But, this is just something I bet on all year. So I don't know if it's a false flag. It looks like one, but we know in September there aren't many of those left.
Yeah, no, it's hard in September because just getting back to it, if the appearance looks like it, the difference is what Jeff's talking about when we talk about, false flags and underdogs throughout the months of June, July, and August. These professionals wake up every day and come to the ballpark. You still think you're in it at that point. Now you come to the ballpark in September and you're going, you know what? Hey, babe, you booked that cruise already? Cool. Hey, we're getting all the guys together. We're going to head to Vegas the minute the season's over. Your agent's calling on the phone saying, hey, look, man, I got a couple teams on the hook ready for you next year. Go out there. Hey, maybe you can pop another home run or two, or just, if there's a ball hit down the line, leave it alone. Don't dive for it. Let's stay healthy in the offseason. If you don't think that goes on, you're crazy in this atmosphere. So, yeah, false flags for me out the door because when you have a team that doesn't need to win or is already checked out, they're not doing that in June and July. So I agree with you there, Jeff.
Cool. Let's do it.
Next up here, Jeff, let's finish off this baseball card. We'll review it at the end of the show. If we get any line updates, we can look at the full card there to see if anything out there, any, late scratches or any interesting lineups that are changed. But one of my favorite parts of the show here, Jeff, we're going to go over the NCAA 5-pack. 5-pack sent in by listeners there that DM'd you throughout the week. And again, Jeff and I appear on a lot of shows here. I know some people get in the chat box. You're going to ask about a lot of different games. Throughout the week, we hit those games back, forth, back, forth, back, forth. I mean, we can't just go over the entire card every show that we go on. So we like to isolate 5 games that the listeners did send in. And again, tomorrow we'll be back on the right side of campus on Thursday and Friday. If you want to go over a couple of games specifically, let the big man or me know. We'll be able to write it down and certainly get after it.
I try to go over every game, Donnie. It's just not always possible. I'll try to hit as many as possible. And I do want to make this aware. Not all these games I'm personally wagering on. But tomorrow we'll definitely go over the NFL card. We hit 5 games last night in college. We're going to hit 5 new ones today in college. So we're trying to hit – I hit them all on Saturday as well. And with Drew and the Bet Buffet, I do 4 more there that are different. So I'm hitting as many as I can.
Yeah, no, we'll have some fun with this, Jeff. Let's get underway here. 303-304, 7:30 kickoff tomorrow night, rivaling Thursday Night Football in the NFL. If we take a look at spread market dollars here, Jeff, 79% of the spread tickets coming in on South Florida, along with 73% of the overall money. Pinnacle opened up at 19, Jeff. Chris opened up at 17.5. About the same as we've been talking about the past couple days here, Jeff. Chris at 19.5, Sportsbook at -20, Bet Online at 18.5, Greek at 19.5. So roughly anywhere between that 19 to 20-point range is where you follow it. And again, betting this line, if you're betting it early, if you like South Florida, you might as well get on it now because, again, if sharp money comes in and knocks it down to 18.5, is it really that big a deal? The one thing you don't want to see is this line peak up to that 20.5, 21, 21.5, and then you're going to be left with that ticket if you would like South Florida. So if you wanted South Florida, we talked about it earlier in the week, jump on it then. Jeff, give us a little bit of a preview here of what we can anticipate here with South Florida and Temple.
Yeah, I think this line will go up by game time. You want to bet it now. There's no reason to not bet it. I think I said that the other day. There's really no reason. If you like South Florida, you shouldn't be waiting. Bet it now. Get it the game in. South Florida is actually coming off a really nice outing against Illinois. 680 total yards in that game. Really did whatever they wanted against the Illini there. And look, they're starting to kind of get back into rhythm here. They struggled first couple games, had the hurricane, kind of got back to practice. Took that national game the other week and took it to Illinois. They have another opportunity here in revenge. Last year, Temple beat them in Philadelphia. That's a big thing. always got revenge when you got Quentin Flowers on your team. It's going to take a little time at Temple. This is a new football team, new quarterback. They've had an issue running the ball as well, and I don't think it's going to get any easier tomorrow night. I think South Florida's got a pretty good run defense with Bruce Hector and Augie Sanchez. Charlie Strong, a good defensive coach. I think he's going to have this team prepared, and it's down in South Florida. That's a place that is always pretty good home atmosphere for USF. They've covered 11 of 14 down there. I just think they're the better football team. I don't think Temple's ready to go on the road and compete. They've had a lot of trouble, not only beating teams, but even beating poor football teams. Last week at UMass, it was tough, and I don't know that they can win a shootout right now. I just don't. They can't run the football, and Marchie's just really bad to do everything his own. They also have struggled against the pass as well. I think this is like a 44-17 type of game, 48-24. I think they end up covering this one by 24 to 28 points. Go ahead and get that number in now. That way, if this game's at 28 with 3 minutes to go, you're not pushing or losing by half point. Get it in now. I'm comfortable laying the 19 or 20 with South Florida.
Yeah, Jeff, I mean, last time the Temple, I believe, went down to South Florida, it kind of ended up pretty ugly there with a high-octane offense. If we're looking at this game over-under at 63, sitting on most of these betting markets, would you say that Temple's probably not going to come in here and try to go toe-to-toe with South Florida on tempo and maybe try to slow it down and maybe, use Rockwell Armstead, pound the football, keep them off of the field? Or do you see it's just insurmountable where South Florida's just going to say, you know what, we're going to run our game plan as is, and heaven forbid if South Florida gets up 14-0 early, Temple's going to be forced to go with Temple here. Any idea of the way the pace of play is going to factor into this one?
I mean, they're pretty much going to be forced, Temple, to run plays. I mean, they run about 54. I think they're like 54th in plays run per game. South Florida has the most snaps per game in the country at 102. So, I mean, they're going to go lightning fast. They need to clean up penalties, South Florida. They had 15 penalties last week, I believe. That has to be cleaned up. But I think Temple's going to be almost forced to throw the football. And Temple has problems right now in their pass defense. I think this is more of a shootout than anything. I'm not looking to get on an under here. When you have a South Florida team, the way they run plays, as the great Joe Duffy says, when you have an over, it's not about offense. It's about how many plays you run. If you're running a lot of plays, there's going to be an opportunity every single play to score a touchdown. If you're running a ton, you're going to have obviously more snaps. That's what you look for when you have an over. Snaps, pace of play. In college basketball, when I'm betting an over, I am not interested in betting a slow-paced team that might score a lot of points. They might be efficient, but at the end of the day, if we have possessions, that means opportunities at scoring, and more opportunities means more scoring. So for me, yeah, I wouldn't be betting over here. I'm not going to look to ever bet, or I wouldn't be looking to bet under here. I'm never looking to bet unders involving South Florida. Sorry.
Yeah, as Boiler Room said, Jeff, it's a contact sport. The more people you contact, the more chances you get, the more money you make. Same thing with the over. You're just asking for them to run plays and run that clock, and we'll see what happens in that one. But interesting to see if Temple's going to hang in. Last year, obviously, the line probably not going to be anywhere near this, but Temple just trying to work on a new regime here to try to get their footing back. 305, 306, Jeff, next up here, Friday Night Football, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Virginia and Boise State. Some interesting information with Ripon now being upgraded to probable tomorrow. The only thing I hasten with that, Jeff, is just because he's probable doesn't mean he's going to take the full amount of snaps, doesn't mean he's going to actually start the football game, especially with concussions in college football. It's a lot different than the NFL. They take these, and give them an extra week or two because they're kids. They don't force them backward in the NFL. It just seems like if you really need the game this Sunday, they're going to clear you and get you through the concussion protocol. So I'm interested to see how that's going to actually play out, because I think the protocol is the same as the NFL, whereas you can't practice, you can't go in the team meeting. So just because he was, probable now, hopefully he cleared concussion protocol. That doesn't mean he's going to be super sharp in this football game. Going back to the stats itself, Jeff, Virginia, 72% of the spread tickets. Line opened up at 12.5, 13.5 at Chris. Currently sitting at Pinnacle, 11.5, but Chris has moved the number to 13.5. Sportsbook at 13, Bet Online to 13. That's not a surprise. When your starting quarterback gets activated to probable, you can always see that bump in the line. Would be interesting to me, Jeff, to see if that line gets back to 2 touchdowns. 14, 14.5, or 13.5. Obviously a huge swing number here. What do you see out of this game?
Yeah, all indications from the Idaho newspapers are he'll play. I think it's almost smart of Harsin to not say anything. I mean, why tell them what you're going to do? I think he's going to play, but I think the question mark is always a good thing. If he plays, I mean, you have to like Boise be able to score in this football game. I mean, they have limited weapons at this point. There's no Spurbeck or McNichols on this team, but Cedric Wilson's a good football player, and Rippon can move the ball. So can Kozart. So I think they're going to be fine moving the ball, but I'm just not really looking to bet on them at home. They failed to cover an 11 of 13 on the blue turf, and I'll tell you what, I think the biggest loss for this team right now is going to be their nose tackle, Moa, who is going to be suspended for this game. He had been arrested over the weekend. This kid's a really good football player. He's one of the better defensive tackles in the country, in all honesty, and him not being in there is really going to hurt this team. I think Bronco Mendenhall is slowly building a little something down in Charlottesville. But going on the road on a Friday night, they're not really used to this thing. Boise is. They play on the West Coast. They're used to playing on Friday nights. I think that's a definite advantage here. I got to be honest, Donnie, and I didn't look at this total since yesterday, so I don't know what it's at.
54.
Okay, yeah, it's went up. I mean, the other day when we talked about it, it was 51.5. I thought that was a really good play to go over. We have to remember Bankert, the quarterback for Virginia, played at East Carolina under Ruffin McNeil. He was able to move the ball. This team can move the football. They're definitely interested in passing it. 16th in the country in passing offense. So, I definitely think we see some points in this game. I think Boise will be able to move the ball as well. This is a tough one. I'm going to probably stay away from it. Out of these three early games this week, this is one that I'll have no interest in. At 51, I like the over. 54 is getting a little high. I still think it'll creep up and over. But overall, I don't have much in this game. Don't be surprised, though. Virginia's getting better.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in that one. That was the early game. Late game on Friday night, Jeff, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Utah and Arizona, 80% of the ticket wagers, Jeff, coming in on the road team here with the Utes over Arizona. We look at the opening line. It opened up at 4 at Pinnacle, opened up at 3 at Chris, currently sitting at 3.5 across the board. That line was a flat 3 a little bit earlier this afternoon, so bouncing around between that 3 and 3.5, probably going to settle in somewhere between one of those two. Maybe wouldn't see it go to 4 or 5.5 again. I think obviously the money's going to start coming in a little bit more, obviously an 80-20 split with Utah. Money will probably come a little bit more on the underdog Arizona Wildcats here coming up shortly. Arizona got off the schneid last week, versus UTEP, was able to run their offense. But then again, it's UTEP. I don't really know what you show or showcase from that game. Utah obviously coming in here, a much bigger test for Arizona. Fast, physical football team. 2 good quarterbacks for Utah. So if one gets banged up, the next one can easily replace the other one. What do you see out of this game, Jeff, with Utah traveling to Arizona? To me, it looks like an easy one to call with Utah just because I like their fast, physical play. We talk about Carrington, a nice addition. You have weapons all over the football field. But does Arizona pose a threat now getting a little bit healthier at home here? I'm just not a believer in Rich Rod.
Yeah, and Arizona really hasn't shown a lot. I mean, I can't really put a lot of stock into beating Northern Arizona and UTEP. Again, I mean, there's not much there. And the game they did step up in this year, they couldn't move the football against Houston. That was the first game out of the year for Houston. I can understand some rust. They were still able to get the job done, though, there. The concerning thing, and I will mention, I've moved already on Utah at -3. I like this bet. It's something that I'm going to probably send out as well, so you're getting free information there. I like Utah in this game. I think there's a lot of things here. It's just not a good matchup for Arizona. Arizona's goal at this point is to run the football with J.J. Taylor and Nick Wilson. Utah's one of their strengths is always run defense. And Brandon Dawkins, I worry about in this game, the new quarterback for Arizona. He has a problem with turning the football over. Utah's got 9 turnovers already this year. That's a concerning thing going in this game. They generate turnovers, Utah, and Dawkins is at times a turnover machine. And look, I mean, I like Tyler Huntley. This kid has played really well. One of the lesser-known quarterbacks in the country no one's heard about, but he reminds you kind of the typical Utah quarterback, the Travis Wilson, the Alex Smith back in the day. He's a tall, lanky kid that is really going to be, I think, a good quarterback. And the defensive advantage here is for Houston. Utah. I just don't know what Arizona has on that side of the football. The only distinct advantage here is they're at home. But other than that, I think this one, I'd be okay with laying 6.5, frankly. At 3, I think it's a very good play.
Yeah, keep it moving here. We'll go to Saturday action. Two good games, two interesting ones. The second one, I actually want to talk about a little bit more than the first one, but we'll cover them in order here. 317, 318. Penn State and Iowa, 58% of the wagers spread-wise coming in on Penn State. Line opened up at 13, currently sitting at 12.5 at Pinnacle, 12.5 at Chris. Roughly 12.5 across the board. Bovada a little bit higher as usual at minus 13. Obviously, people seeing Penn State's scoreboard watching the first few weeks of the season, but albeit haven't played too many football teams there. Iowa, always that tough team at home, tough team there, obviously on the road. Doesn't matter where they play. Wadley's a good football player, but if we look at it from a coaching standpoint with Ferentz, he needs this game. He's got to get off the schneid. If Iowa gets behind in this football game, Jeff, it's not going to be advantageous for them because we watch the way they play football. It's, let's run the ball 3 yards in a cloud of dust, play good defense, don't turn the football over. Hopefully we beat you 17-14 is what I feel like they try to do every week. But talk to us about the advantage that Iowa has at home here versus Penn State, high-octane Penn State. But again, they haven't played anybody yet and heading out on the road here.
Yeah, it's the first road game as well. So, that's a concern right out of the gate. To me, I look at Iowa every year. It seems like they always pull an upset at home in Iowa City on a Saturday night on the lights. I'm really excited for this football game. Look, Penn State's good. We all know that. McSorley's a good quarterback. Barkley's probably the best running back in the country. But I wonder about their defense. I think there are some question marks. I know they are one of the better defense statistically in the country, but they played literally no one that can move the football. Now you got to go on the road and face a team who I believe there's a reason they upset teams because they're built to upset teams, Donnie. If you look at the way Iowa plays football, they are built accordingly to upset. They can run the football. They can stop the run. And you look at this year, 6th in the country in time of possession. They're a boring football team, and they don't care. They're okay with sitting on the ball, time of possession, running it, and then stopping the run. They're a team that's only given up 94 rush yards per game this year, and they're a team that has faced some pretty good offenses. And I know they struggled against Iowa State, but against North Texas and against Wyoming, really did a good job of stopping two pretty high-powered offenses and a great quarterback in Josh Allen. I just think they're built. I'm not saying they're going to pull the upset, but I definitely think at home here they can hang around in this football game. I think Penn State's sorely overrated, and I think long-term you're going to see that. I'm not really sure what the love affair with this team is. They lost in their bowl game, and they beat no one in the first 3 games of the year. Why are they ranked 5th? Can you explain that? Because I can't. Rankings are about what you're doing now. And
they are putting the teams away pretty easily, and I guess just by default with some of the other teams losing,
but every other team,
a little bit. But yeah,
every other team has challenged themselves. All the top 5 teams have challenged themselves. Alabama's challenged themselves. Oklahoma's challenged themselves. I guess Oklahoma State, but they're not top. Why isn't Oklahoma State top 5 then?
It's to be determined on this. The good part about it is a lot of time to play out there. And again, they're going to have to beat a good Iowa football team in Iowa. Do I think Penn State's the better team? Yes, I do. But again, they're going to be laying close to 2 touchdowns here. That's going to be the one they're going to have to figure out.
This is the great thing about sports betting and just kind of wondering when you do things, because I wonder where this line will go. I'm interested. And I think a lot of people – I wonder. I think a lot of people will see that Iowa's a decent football team and they usually do this, but – I think a lot of punters will come in and bet Penn State here. The home team's covered in 5 of 7 in this series. I just think there's way too many question marks. I'm not sold on Penn State, and I am sold on Iowa. I think they're a team that can upset someone. Will it be Penn State? I don't know, but they seem to do this every year. They upset Michigan last year, and Michigan was very good, and that was towards the end of the year. Ferentz just has a good way of doing things like this. They're a team that will sit on the ball and stop the run. That's what they do.
Yeah, I typically root against Iowa weekly, Jeff, because my eyes bleed the way I would like to watch.
They don't care, though.
I know that's it, but then again, yeah, you're right. If Kirk Ferentz, you're Iowa. You have to remind yourself you are Iowa. If you take 8-9 wins a season and get to a bowl game, that is your peak, and you have to accept that. And that's what they should be doing. Where Kirk Ferentz gets paid so much money. All right, so Ferentz hasn't won a national title. You're going to fire him. What are you going to bring in? Some young 26-year-old guy who's going to try to implement a wide-open spread offense. No, you can't recruit that talent there and win that way. I agree. Know your limits, Jeff. I know you talk about ECU. Ruff and McNeil, very successful, getting them to bowl games. Hey, we have bigger aspirations.
If it works, why mess it up if it works? I actually related a lot, Donnie, to I'm wearing a Juventus shirt. Juventus has won 6 straight Italian league titles. They're a boring team. They sit back, play defense, try to hit you on the counter. They don't care if you don't watch it. They're about winning soccer games, and that's what Ferentz does. Wisconsin does it to a T as well. They don't care how it looks. They're trying to win football games, not impress scouts or whatever. They're there to win football games, and you got to respect Ferentz. I respect him. He's done a great job at Iowa.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I mean, look at the whole Nebraska fiasco now. I mean, that is a team that has unlimited resources, unlimited funds, but let's again. We're sitting in the middle of Nebraska. So you get rid of Dr. Tom Osborne back in the day, continually shifting coaches. You're firing guys left and right. And you're saying well, what are we really? No. You're the new Nebraska now. This is if you get 8 to 9 wins a season, just enjoy it. Some of the expectations that come out of the Cornhuskers always make me laugh because I don't know, maybe they have a good wrestling team, but obviously their basketball team is usually middle of the pack or bottom to the pack. And again, it's Nebraska. It's going to be hard to recruit to get guys to Iowa, to Nebraska. It is what it is. Maybe 8 to 9 wins in a bowl game.
And we've talked about this before, Donnie, with Wisconsin. They get them big farm boys, and that's what the Iowa Hawkeyes do as well. If you, again, listen to what I said, they're like Wisconsin. I didn't say they were better. They're the same kind of program. That's the point here. And they haven't always had, Donnie, a great quarterback. I mean, Beathard was a pretty good quarterback, and I think Nate Stanley will be as well. But they just do it with these farm kids, good running backs a lot of the time, and that's their MO.
Yeah, play sound defense. Next up on the card, you have 10:30 p.m. Saturday night start. UCLA Stanford 4-9, 4-10. And I got to tell you, I mean, I see the line where it opens up at 7. Chris opens up at 6.5. Now sits at 7.5. And one of these lines, Jeff, that I just scratch my head, is UCLA an unbelievably great football team? No. Do they have a pro-level quarterback that's going to exceed in college football and go to the next level? Yes, they do. I watch Stanford weekly. I'm not impressed one bit. Should Stanford be able to win this football game? Yeah. I mean, I like the way they play. UCLA has shown appendage to not stop very many people. But again, you're looking at two teams that went after them, a high-octane Memphis offense, a high-octane USC offense. And now you get another team, high octane coming in here. Stanford from there, just running the football. What do you expect out of this game? And why is it 7.5? That's my whole question on this one.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I mean, the line definitely doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I guess they're looking at Stanford and expecting a bounce back performance. But Donnie, I think you just go away from the side here and try to stop racking your brain and say, last night I looked at this total. It was 62 at 8:30 p.m.
Yep.
Today, it's 56.5. And we've seen this a lot with these bad defensive teams. The total is just plummeting, and I don't get it. I'm going over 56.5. I like this play. I don't understand this total. You look at UCLA this year. All 3 games have gone over the total, and they are bad defensively. I mean, they're 121st in scoring defense, giving up 38 points a game. Their run defense is really poor. And I think after a tough game for Keller Chris, one of the worst games Stanford's seen from a quarterback in a long time, I think they soften up this week. They have a soft defense they're facing here. They should be able to get back to the run with Bryce Love. And I think Keller Chris obviously bounces back with a big game here. And I also look at UCLA. I was wrong for the most part on Stanford. This team has really played poorly, and their secondary was crushed and exploited against USC for the most part. They have to be better. I'm not sure if they will be. I think Josh Rosen can pick them apart as well. If I'm leaning side, I would go with the Bruins as well. I just think this is a close football game. But UCLA is giving up 275 yards on the ground. I think we see a lot of points in this game. Last week, I didn't really understand racking your brain in that football game at UCLA. I really don't in this either. I think we see 60-plus points in this game. Just don't know that I understand the move down here.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a high, an offense that likes to throw it around, a defense that tends to be a sieve, Stanford should be able to impose their will and rip off chunks, which again, in college.
And UCLA doesn't run the ball at all, though.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
they completely abandoned the run.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that one. I just saw it at 7.5, saying just by shots and, going back and forth in this one, you're getting more than a touchdown. I would lean on UCLA. But then again, they hang that line for a reason. And it opened up less than 7 and now sits above 7. So kind of interesting to see where that's going to fall. Next up on the docket, Jeff, NFL tomorrow night, 8:25 p.m. kickoff. Going to rival the college football game. We'll see who gets more eyeballs because even though this is a color rush game and maybe they're excited for it out there in San Francisco and Los Angeles, which I probably don't think they are, I don't know how much the country's excited for it, but then again, it is NFL football, and it's going to be in front of your face, and people want to bet on it. 81%, Jeff, of the spread tickets coming in on the Los Angeles Rams. Line opened up at 3. You're starting to see some threes with plus money. Chris -3 plus 101. Sportsbook -3 plus 100. Bet online now -2.5. So I think this line actually is going to close at 3, Jeff. Leaning on this game, I would lean going with the San Francisco 49ers taking the points. I'm not in love with the Rams, not in love with the 49ers in this one, but give me the home team with short rest here where the other team's got to travel up and not getting much practice time. I'll lean on Hoyer here. I think they're going to get up to Schneid and score a touchdown. Obviously, in this game, they haven't scored one in the first 2 weeks, but did play admirably on defense. They are a little bit banged up on the defensive secondary end, but I think they can hang on with the Rams. I don't see a runaway either way in this one. I'll lean on the home team here, Jeff, getting 3 points.
Yeah, I said to you all week, I disagree. I think the Rams are to play here. As you mentioned, this 49ers team hasn't scored a touchdown this year. And you're getting a team and defense here in LA that's only improving day by day, getting Aaron Donald back. And they have a good front seven and Ogletree, and their secondary is not bad either. I just don't really have any reason to believe that San Francisco can move the football. Other than Carlos Hyde, they really don't have too much. Shanahan really hasn't been able to do with offense what he wants, and they're just kind of hamstrung with their quarterback situation. They are a very good defense as well, though. So I think the under, obviously on Thursday night, is a good play as well. But I'm starting to see LA. Some of these guys really start to kind of open up a little bit. I mean, I think from a skill position point, if Jared Goff plays pretty well, I think they're going to win games. If he plays well, they'll win games. So on Goff, because they have a good receiving group. Cooper Kupp is starting to become that Cole Beasley type. Gerald Everett had a big catch last week that I went for like 50 or 60 yards. I really liked him coming out of South Alabama. Good size, big kid. It's all rests on Goff. If Goff's good, I think they'll win and cover this game and win, 27-10. If he's not, this could be a dogfight, and they could steal one at home here. But there's just not much of an advantage at that stadium. No one cares about the 49ers. They're not any good. I like the Rams. I've said that all year. I think they'll get the job done here. I think the game will stay under.
Yeah, it looks like 39.5 that number is setting up as, and I can see it. I mean, it has every indication, Jeff, 20-14, 17-14, 17-13, somewhere in that range. Again, I don't see a clean football game, and it never is a clean football game on Thursday night. Any evidence of that, Jeff? You saw Houston and Cincinnati embarrass themselves out there, both sides on offense, and I look to maybe even more of the same here. I mean, you're right. The Rams do have a little bit more weapons, but again, young kid going on the road, young head coach going on the road, first road game. We'll see how it plays out, especially being on a Thursday night game. Just to wrap up a couple of things here, Jeff, let's take a look at the Major League Baseball card again. If you missed the show or you missed opening of the show, we do like to give a play or two out here, Jeff. I'm going to lean on tonight the Philadelphia Phillies under 9.5 as my closing line play of the day. Hopefully that one's going to get the nod. Yesterday went 1-1, so we basically juiced out, took a nice favorite. I believe it closed at around 160 for the Yankees. I lost my total on the Toronto game, so I'm going to back it up tonight. We're going to go Philadelphia Phillies, Los Angeles Dodgers, rotation 955, 956, under 9.5 as my play of the night tonight. Anything you want to give out, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm going to be a little bit of a square, and it is concerning, but I'm going to go 2 baseball games tonight. I'm going to go with 2 road teams, which I'm not a big fan of, and 2 road favorites that I'm not a big fan of. I'm going to go Cubs -116 against a lefty. I just can't not do it, and they can't hit lefties to Tampa Bay. I'll go the Cubs, and I also go with at this point, Arizona Cardinals. You can get 140 at Intertops. I'll go with that. I just think Robbie Ray is just filthy on the road. This just looks like I could see San Diego getting no hit in this spot. I mean, honestly, they're that bad. Ray is just filthy. So I'll go with Arizona and the Cubs, 1 at 7 o'clock, 1 at 9.
Sounds like a plan. Closing line September the 20th. Once again, I want to thank my guest, the BMOC, Jeff Nadeau. Catch us again tomorrow, 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be breaking it all down on the right side of campus. Go over a little bit more NFL football, another 5-pack at least of NCAA football, a little bit of baseball talk mixed in here and there. But as you know from the show, we do have a lot of fun in it. We'll be back tomorrow again, 6 p.m. Eastern Time with the closing line for September the 21st. Anticipated guest, Teddy Severansky, will be on the show. It's been the closing line presented by Sportsbook Review. Check everything out that we have to offer at SBRodds.com and also the latest on social media at SBR Sports Picks. Give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube from all of us at SportsbookReview.com. Good luck on your wagers tonight. We hope we helped you beat the closing line.